From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.
Welcome into a Monday here at 6 o'clock, and it is yours truly, Jazzy Jeff. The pot is stirring again on this Monday, as we will get into a lot of things coming up this evening. We will continue the conversation about the Seneca Fine Arts Center. As you know, construction may be moving forward, but, well, how will Seneca pay to operate it when there's no line item in the city budget? Also, too, August the 11th is coming up, and the city of Seneca is expected to take its final vote coming up with the Seneca Light and Water budget. But could another change be in the works? And why does the mayor believe $15 flat fee is better than charging customers based on the cost of service? And tonight here at 6:30, we're going to head over to Pickens County Council, and we're going to follow their vote coming up tonight. They're doing the lake overlay, similar to what we have here in Oconee County, and we will bring you live coverage coming up here at the Pickens County Council, because that one is a very interesting story, and we will follow that coming up here. It is the Pot Stirrer Podcast, Monday night edition. Welcome in as we steer in the truth and keeping you informed. And by the way, tomorrow, welcome back, students. That's right. Classes and school resumes in Oconee County coming up tomorrow. So, again, you want to allow yourself a little extra time traveling around the old schools tomorrow, as watch out for the school buses as they will be in and around the community tomorrow. Of course, teachers all went back last Monday as they got their classrooms and everything ready. Hope that there's going to be a great new year for everybody here for the 26-27 school season. And if you're just joining us, want to welcome you into the broadcast here. Well, tonight we've got three major stories that are affecting Pickens and Oconee counties. Again, at 6:30, we're going to go live over to Pickens County, where council members are expected to cast the final vote on a controversial overlay district covering properties near Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee. They've not had the lake overlay such as Oconee County. We've had that for a while here in Oconee County. We're also going to examine the latest division surrounding the Seneca Light and Water budget, including the utility increases now facing residents and businesses. And in Walhalla, there is a council meeting going on right now. They will have an executive session as council has selected one of the three finalists to begin contract negotiations for the city administrator position, but the public still hasn't been told which candidate has been chosen. So we're going to get started right now. Welcome everybody in. Well, the final vote on Lake Kiwi and Jocassee overlay. Our first story takes us to Pickens County, where council members are expected to make a major decision tonight involving development around two of the upstate's most valuable natural resources, including Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee. Pickens County Council will hold a public hearing and final reading of ordinance number 684, which will establish an official Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee overlay district. Now, the stated goal of the ordinance is to protect water quality, conserve natural resources, and safeguard the drinking water. As most folks know, a lot of folks in Pickens County and even Greenville County get their water from the folks of Lake Kiwi. Greenville Water has been getting their water from Lake Kiwi since, I think, the late 1980s. And, of course, it all sounds reasonable on the surface. After all, Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee are not just recreational lakes, but they do provide drinking water. They support tourism. They affect property values and serve as a major economic engine for the entire region. But, as always, the real debate is found in the details. Now, let me explain about Pickens County's detail here with their lake overlay. Under the proposal, the overlay district would apply to properties located within 1,300 and 20 feet of the full pond elevation of either lake. And for perspective, that's almost a quarter of a mile. 1,320 feet is 1/4 of a mile. That means this ordinance would affect far more than just property sitting directly along the shoreline. It could apply to homes, undeveloped land, farms, wooded property, commercial parcels located up to a quarter mile away. The ordinance would prohibit several types of development within the district. Heavy and light industrial uses would be prohibited. It would also prohibit duplexes, attached single-family homes, townhomes, multi-family housing developments, and that could significantly restrict the type and density of future residential constructions around the lake. Supporters may argue that limiting the high-density development reduces runoff and it protects the shoreline and prevents lakes from becoming overwhelmed by the unchecked growth. Now, the opponents may be arguing for the county is limiting what private property owners can do with their land and possibly affecting property values and future development opportunities. But the ordinance actually goes just a little bit further. According to language being considered, certain landscaping activities involving fertilizer, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and they would be permitted within the overlay district. Forestry and timbering activities would also be forbidden to happen, and that does raise several questions. How will those restrictions be enforced? Would homeowners be prohibited from treating their lawns? Would farmers or commercial landscapers be affected? Could property owners remove trees to build a home and improve a view or reduce the danger of falling timber? And what current uses should be grandfathered in and also would be responsible for inspecting? Who would be responsible for inspecting and citing those violations? Well, the details matter because an ordinance can sound good when summarized in a sentence, but the consequences often show up later when someone applies for a permit or receives a violation notice. Now, the conversation is also expanding beyond Lake Keowee and Lake Jocassee. July 20th, Pickens County Council gave initial approval to a separate ordinance establishing an overlay district for Lake Hartwell. Now, Councilwoman Linville from the Clemson area argued that the three lakes feed into one another and that water protection policies should therefore be consistent. And that brings us up to a central issue council must decide. Is this a necessary environmental protection plan, or is the county creating a development restrictions that reach too far onto private property? Now, protecting water quality is essential, but property rights are important too. The responsibility of the council is to demonstrate that those restrictions are scientifically justified, clearly written, and enforced, and no broader than necessary. And, of course, tonight's public hearing will give residents the opportunity to speak before the final vote. And that meeting will be held coming up starting at 6:30 tonight at the Pickens County Administration Facility located at 222 McDaniel Avenue in Pickens. And of course, we will have live coverage coming up from Pickens starting at about 6:30 this evening. The vote matters to property owners, lake residents, developers, environmental advocates, and anyone who depends on these lakes for drinking water or economic activity. And whether you live in Pickens County or not, what happens around Lake Keowee, Lake Jocassee, and Lake Hartwell will eventually affect all of us. And again, we're preparing to join coming up here beginning at around 9, or about 6:30 this evening. We'll go over to Pickens County. Well, story number 2 we're working on, of course, is the Seneca Light and Water budget heads towards a final vote, and that is coming up August the 11th. That is next Tuesday. And Seneca City Council is expected to hold the final vote on the proposed fiscal year 26-27 for Seneca Light and Water. The city's other 3 budgets were approved on June 30th, and the original Light and Water budget failed by a vote of 5-4. The issue that brought it down was the proposed $15 monthly fee for water customers. And after that proposal failed, the city restarted the budget process and replaced the flat fee with several utility rate increases. The new budget currently includes a 4.5% electric rate increase, an 8% water rate increase, and a 10% sewer rate increase, part of which is being passed through from the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority. Now, the first reading of the revised budget passed by a vote of 7-2 with Mayor Ronnie O'Kelly and Councilmember Dan Alexander voting against it. And now with the final vote approaching, council members are beginning to publicly explain where they stand. Of course, Councilmember Dana Moore continues to support the cost of service approach, and we have to go back and let you remember that, again, Josh Ritchie's, who is responsible for helping put this budget together, even said himself that the cost of service approach was the best approach. Moore argues that the original $15 flat fee would have required water customers to help subsidize other portions of the utility system. In his view, the cost of each service should be paid by the customer using that service. And Moore also says the city is facing dramatically higher cost. As for an example, he said that transformers once that cost approximately $1,200 can now cost as much as $8,000. Moore acknowledged that the increases are difficult, especially when several rates are rising during the same year. But he also said council members and city staff must continue examining expenses and finding additional ways to reduce cost. According to Moore, approximately $1.7 million is what's going to be needed. All right, story number 3 here. Walhalla moves towards hiring its next city administrator. As we roll in for tonight's program here, the City Council is moving closer to hiring its next city administrator following a lengthy executive session Thursday. Walhalla City Council voted to begin contract negotiations with one of its 3 finalists for the position. But here's the catch. Council did not publicly identify which candidate was selected. Mayor Tim Hall has been authorized to begin negotiations, but any final contract will still have to come back before the full council for approval. Now, the search comes as current city administrator Cecilia Myers prepares to leave the position, with today being expected to be her final day. The 3 candidates that made it into the final stage is current Walhalla City Clerk Ed Halberg, Packlet Town Administrator Patrick Kay, and former Salem Police Chief and former Pickens City Administrator Dave Polson. Each candidate brings a different background and according to the table. Ed Halberg is the only internal candidate, and of course he certainly serves as Walhalla City Clerk and previously spent more than 20 years as Seneca Planning and Development Director. And during that time, he worked with planning, zoning, economic development, code enforcement, grants, and major capital projects. Halberg also worked for Oconee County and the New Mexico Department of Transportation. His experience is heavily focused on planning, infrastructure, development, and working directly with local governments. Halberg says his goal would be to help Walhalla grow while protecting the character that makes the city unique. And there would be an attractive to the council members who want someone familiar with the region, local government, and procedures when the challenges were facing Walhalla. The other the other candidate for administrator is Patrick Kay, and he certainly serves as the town administrator for Packlet in Spartanburg County. His responsibilities include public safety, public works, planning, zoning, budgeting, personnel, grants, and capital projects, and economic development. Kay has also worked in the downtown development and economic development positions in Georgia, and his applications emphasize visibility, community involvement, transparency, and building strong relationships with businesses and employees. Kay says a city manager's role should extend far beyond the walls of City Hall. His background could appeal to council members looking for an administrator with experience in the economic development, downtown revitalization, and long-term community planning. David Polson is perhaps the broadest combination of law enforcement and municipal management experience, and he currently serves as the interim police chief for the town of Salem, or Pendleton, excuse me. He was prior at Salem. He was the former police chief at Salem, but Polson served as city administrator for Pickens, planning director, zoning administrator for Pendleton, and assistant town administrator and police chief for Salem. He also has decades of law enforcement experience in South Carolina and Virginia. And while serving as the Pickens City Administrator, Polson managed a city of approximately 3,300 residents, 74 employees, and $7.4 million budget. His background does include budgeting, personnel management, emergency operations, strategic planning, and working with elected officials. And, of course, this could appeal to the council members who want someone with direct experience running the daily operation of the city. Well, the pot stirrer question, here is what the public deserves to know. Why was the selected finalist not identified after council voted to begin negotiations? Was the decision unanimous? What qualifications separate the selected candidate from the other two? Salary, benefits, and contract terms are being discussed. What are those? And how much opportunity will the public have to learn about the person who could soon be running Walhalla's daily operations? Now, there may be legitimate reasons to keeping certain contract negotiations private, but again, transparency matters, especially when council is choosing one of the most powerful unelected officials in city government. The city administrator oversees the employees, prepares budgets, manages departments, and carries out the direction of the mayor and council. And of course, this is not a ceremonial position. It is a personal responsibility for keeping the machinery of city government running. Council has not announced when negotiations will conclude or when the selected candidate could begin serving. And until a contract is finalized and approved, this remains an open process and one worthy watching closely, because in local government, the name of the ballot may get the attention, but the administrator behind the scenes often gets the whole train on the tracks. All right, so there's the top stories. Again, the big one that you need to watch out for coming up is August the 11th. If I were you and you were a city resident, or if you were a Seneca Light and Water customer, I believe I would be showing up next Tuesday for the council meeting. I'm not saying that they're going to try to do something, but something in the water kind of lurks. It kind of stinks, because Saturday in the paper, Mr. O'Kelly was definitely adamant again that the $15 flat fee was the way to go. And again, it's not. That's 119% increase in just the water alone. And that means, again, I hate to see that the increase is going up at all, but if there's something that should be going up, well, unfortunately, I'd rather see it cost of service. I wished it didn't have to go up at all, but of course, with all things, everything seems to be going up around the community. So again, the 11th is one of the biggest ones, and I would be very close to that one. That would be the one that I would want to make sure that you attend coming up on August the 11th. Tomorrow night, Pickens or Oconee County will be having they'll be having their council meeting. And it is going to be a full sledge of things that's going to be talked about. One of those, of course, I can assure you that will be coming up will be the Corinth Shiloh Volunteer Fire Department. In a story that you actually heard here about 2 weeks ago, we interviewed, of course, Danny Delmarco, the volunteer treasurer, and they put out a video Friday, I believe it was. The volunteers did, pretty much trying to tell their story and point shade and point things. And the video is available, by the way, if you can find the correct Facebook page. The fire area has two Facebook pages. One's for the fire department, the tax district, and one for the volunteers. And they put a counter video out I guess they were trying to dispel a lot of things that Matt Durham was saying, which I still believe that Matt was saying the accurate stuff. He was talking about things that are going on. Again, the only people that are involved in all of this that are hurting the most is actually the citizens. The citizens of the Corinth Shiloh Fire Department, they're in the middle of this battle, and I hate it for them. Again, they're supposed to have been, there's a meeting tonight. We'll find out more of what happens. The volunteers were scheduled a meeting, and we'll find out more of what happens. But coming up tomorrow, the county council will be meeting. That's just one of many things that they will be discussing that's on the agenda, and we will have coverage tomorrow, the Oconee County Council meeting. We will start that coming up at 6 o'clock. It's 20 minutes after 6 now. We will be heading over to Pickens County. We'll be following their vote tonight for their overlay, and we think that's going to be a very, very big vote for Pickens County. Of course, Oconee, we've had the overlay for a few years. We've had the overlay since, going back into the mid-2000s, I think. And again, the overlay has kind of helped us a little bit around Lake Keowee and Lake Jocassee. But again, we talk a little bit about this as we get ready to transition over to the live coverage. 1,320 foot boundary. That's almost a quarter mile. How will the restrictions on landscape and fertilizers and forestry and timbering be enforced? That was one of the things in the overlay that we were reading of what they're voting on tonight. And this is the third and final vote tonight. What exemptions will exist for homeowners and existing property uses? How could the ordinance affect property values and future development? Has the council made any changes to the ordinance in response to concerns raised by public? And we're going to talk a little bit about that coming up here very, very shortly for you. One of the things I wanted to talk about, too, is Oconee County. Let me explain what we already have here in Oconee. So hopefully you can see the difference between the two. Oconee County has Lake Keowee, Lake Jocassee in our overlay district, and, of course, part of Lake Hartwell. It's a border. We're bordered with Pickens County. Oconee generally extends about 750 feet from the full pond contour of Lake Keowee and Lake Jocassee. Now, Pickens County is proposing 1,320 feet. That's what we have here in Oconee County. That means that the Pickens County proposal is going to reach 570 feet further and farther inland than Oconee County's current overlay. And the difference is not just the difference. Oconee County, we use a layered approach. And, of course, it's a broader 750-foot overlay containing density, height, and land use standards. There is a much narrower 25-foot natural vegetative buffer immediately beside the lake where the strongest landscaping and vegetation restrictions do apply. That is a major distinction. Oconee County density rules under the Oconee County Ordinance, newly created lots that fall wholly or partially within the 200 feet of the lake's full pond contour must be at least 1/2 acre. The maximum density in that area is 1 dwelling unit for every 1/2 acre. Property located within the remaining portion of the 750-foot overlay is limited to a net density of no more than 2 dwelling units per an acre. Oconee County also limits the building of height inside the overlay to 65 feet. And some of you may remember that we went through the high-rise condo. I can't remember when that was. Do y'all remember the high-rise issue, the high-rise condos that were going to be built up in the middle part of Lake Keowee? Goodness gracious, what was this, mid-2000s? That's where that right there came from, the overlay. They didn't want the high-rise condos on Lake Keowee. Now, non-residential projects located wholly or partially within the overlay must receive a special exception from the Oconee County Board of Zoning Appeals. Now, in other words, Oconee County's wider overlay regulates density, height, and approval process. The strictest vegetation controls are concentrated much closer to the water. Now, Oconee County's 25-foot shoreline buffer requires natural vegetative buffering on the qualifying waterfront parcels. Inside the buffer, new manicured lawns are prohibited. Clear-cutting, mowing, cultivation, fertilization, and the use of herbicides, fungicides, and pesticides are also prohibited. But Oconee County ordinances including several specific allowances and exceptions. Existing structures and landscape that were present when the rules were adopted are considered permitted. Property owners may maintain a view line covering up to 15% of the buffer. Paths up to 6 foot wide may be allowed, and small patios or decks up to 100 square feet may also be permitted as part of the approved view lane. Dead, dying, or hazardous trees may be removed with proper confirmation or approval. Invasive species may be removed carefully. And utility work, shoreline stabilization work are also addressed in Oconee County's ordinance there. Property owners who cannot establish the required buffer may request a variance before the Board of Zoning Appeals. And Oconee ordinances may be strict, but it tries to spell out what is prohibited and what is allowed and how property owners can request relief. So let's put this in plain English, the side-by-side version from Oconee and Pickens County. Oconee County, 750 feet from the lakes. Pickens County's proposal is 1,320 feet. Oconee County uses a 25-foot shoreline buffer for its strongest restrictions on chemical, clear-cutting, and manicured lawns. The article described the Pickens County proposal saying landscaping, chemicals, forestry, and timbering would be forbidden within the overlay district, which could mean those restrictions extend across the entire quarter-mile area. And if this is how the final Pickens County ordinance is written, it would be significantly broader than Oconee County's approach. Oconee County regulates the residential density through minimum lot sizes and lots on dwelling units per acre. Pickens County would outright prohibit several housing categories, including duplexes, attached single-family homes, townhomes, and multi-family developments. Let me rephrase that. Multi-family developments would be outright prohibited in the Pickens County ordinance. So these are two different ordinances here. Oconee explicitly protects existing structures and landscape. It includes allowance for view lines, paths, small patios, hazardous tree removals, and variances. The public would needs to know whether Pickens County ordinance contains similar protections and exceptions. And of course, this is not simply Pickens County copying the ordinance from across Oconee to across the lake. Some body of water could have one set of rules on the Oconee side and a considerably broader set of restrictions on the Pickens side. One lake, two counties, two very different rule books. And hopefully tonight we'll get to hear some of that coming up, as we will be joining the Pickens County Council coming up here very shortly. All right, right now it is officially 6:27. I want to welcome you in this evening here. Glad to have you with us on the program this evening here on the Pod Stirrer podcast. We want to remind you that we will have coverage of the Oconee County Council meeting coming up tomorrow evening, beginning at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We will go up to Waha to Pine Street, and we will talk a little bit about what's happening on the tap. We'll hear more things happening within the county. Justin checks in. Justin, good to have you with us this evening. Love your hat. Where did you get this? Justin, I can't remember. A lot of folks have talked about this hat, and I believe I got this hat over in, I think I bought this hat over in Clayton somewhere, Clayton, Georgia. Monkey Monster and I were over there. And I'll see if I can remember, and if I do, I'll shoot you a message. But I love my little eagle hat. Wayne checks in and says, hey, hello, Jeff. Wayne Owens, they don't need to raise prices. Well, I agree with you. It would seem like if you're referring to the city of Seneca, it would seem like that there should have already been a plan in place, which there was supposed to have been. They were already supposed to have been increasing the power cost for the last 5 years, but they didn't do that. And I think we're paying for a lot of things. The biggest thing, though, that I have a question going into the next several months is the Seneca Fine Arts Center. And if you follow me on my podcast, or actually on my Facebook page, you know I've called it out, and I'm still calling it out. It's not a line item in the budget. We've spent $22 million. There's things coming up. We don't even have a company to run it. Mr. Mulder has made the statement that we're going to do a fundraiser, and I'm sitting here thinking we're not a 501c3. The Seneca Fine Arts Center is not a not-for-profit. Unlike Wahala, which Wahala Performing Arts, they are a not-for-profit. They're a 501c3. They have volunteers. It's a well-oiled, well-run machine. I can say that. Mark and them up there, and they're volunteers, and they have a lot of business support. If they're looking to get something like that in Seneca, good luck. Because remember, taxpayer paid to build that thing. $22 million, I might add. So anyway, that's the way things are looking right now. Okay, well, there you go. That is the latest updates and things happening. Hopefully, we will be able to hook up here in just a few moments with Pickens County. We are waiting. They will have coverage of the county council meeting, and we're going to go back over to their YouTube channel and see if they've got anything up. And they are live right now. Give us just a second, and we're going to transfer you over there to the program here in just a few moments. Just a few moments. Let me go ahead and get this up here, And we'll go over to Pickens County and share the screen. And let's see, is this it? That is not it. That is it. And share. We will join up now over in Pickens County.
The time, place, and date. Are the mics on? The mics are not that good. Is it better? I'll try to speak up, okay?
Mr. Chairman, there is the overflow room for those not planning on speaking where the live feed is playing. And they'll be able to hear better.
Okay, that's your, yeah, we'll get through it. The meeting's being held to conform with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act and the council's organizational rules. The public has been notified of the date, time, and place of the meeting. Public notice in the agenda was placed on the county website and the bulletin board in the county administration building at least 24 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Now, first up is the invocation. That's Councilman Chris Bowers.
Let's pray. Our dear Lord and gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight just to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come together to meet, to do the business of the county. We thank you for the ability to pray. And God, we thank you for those that are here with us. We just ask now that you be with us as we go through this meeting, that you lead us, that you guide us, that you direct us, so that we make the best decisions for the people of this county. Dear Father, we just thank you, especially tonight, for having my grandmother here with us, celebrating her 100th, and just so grateful for that, Lord. We love you. We thank you. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Marilyn Bowers, the former county employee. She is going to introduce us to a very special citizen of Pickens County tonight to lead us in the pledge.
It is indeed a pleasure to be able to introduce my mother. We have been celebrating since the end of June, her 100th birthday. And she's been a lifelong citizen of Pickens County that whole 100 years, basically in the same spot she lives today. I told Alex he better be on his toes because she's in his district and yes, she still votes. So we're real proud. She's been a very active citizen of Pickens County. One of the best things, she served many years as poll clerk for the Albert R. Lewis precinct. So it kind of runs in the family. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. If you'll join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag liberty and justice.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Now we're going to give you something special token from our appreciation, and thank you for leading us in the pledge tonight. Get a picture of that too.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
Marilyn, get in there. All right, yeah.
One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up is item number 2. It's going to be the public forum. We're going to have 2 sessions tonight. One is going to be the general public forum, and then later in the meeting we'll have a public hearing for the Lake Jocassee and Kiwi overlay. So let's start with the general public input. Tonight, our first speaker, and it's our guest speaker, Jeannie Gilstrap with the Pickens Rotary Club. She's going to tell us a little bit about the new promotional maps that they have, and as well as some of the events Pickens Rotary is undertaking, and how, if anybody wants to join the Pickens Rotary, how they'll do that. Thanks, Jeannie. Come on down.
Thank you to council for inviting me here tonight. As Alex said, I am Jeannie Tinsley Gilstrap. I am with Pickens Rotary Club. For those of you who are not familiar with Rotary International, it is one of over 40,000 clubs in more than 220 countries and territories around the world. We were organized in 1907 for the privilege of service. Three gentlemen decided that they could do more together than they could separately. And throughout the history of Rotary International, that is our motto, service above self. And I would like to thank Pickens County Council tonight for awarding us part of the ATAX grant. With this allocation of your gift, our Rotary Club in Pickens is going to be able to provide a service to the area of Pickens. Rotary International dictates that we organize our service in 7 areas of focus. One of those areas is vocation and economy, and we hope that our project will assist with the economy of our area. We are going to publish, with the money from the ATAX grant, a map that will be distributed in the South Carolina Visitor Centers. It will be titled Pickens, South Carolina, and we hope that this year we will provide the 250th anniversary logo that was part of our Rotary Azalea Festival idea this year. This map, which will, like I said, be distributed along the visitor centers of the upper and Midlands of South Carolina, contains not only a map of the area of Pickens, but most importantly, the geographic and historic icons that make up what makes Pickens the gem of the county. We will be printing 10,000 of these maps, and anyone that would like to participate and be recognized as participating in these maps can contact me or any other member of the Pickens Rotary Club. And we look forward to working with council again in the future.
How do people join?
People join by invitation. Contact me or Ken Roper. Sorry. And we certainly would love to have interested individuals, service-minded, and all about community. And I think I'm in the right place for that tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, we have 7 speakers signed up this evening. First, I call Josh Medlin.
Good evening. I was planning on protesting for about 3 minutes and some Facebook stuff, but I think we need to have a come to Jesus moment, so I'm going to stay quiet for a few, get about 3 minutes. I'm glad your mom walked out here, so I was going to change my speech if she was still in here. But y'all 2 on this side, y'all can go take a break. Y'all 3 on this side can go take a break. You said I go about 60 miles per hour. Not true. I try to get my time out in 3 minutes. You didn't allow comments when you post about county business on your page. that can be an amendment violation because you're posting about county business extension. You said the council was slow. You said the planning commission can't handle too many things. You said the same about the administration. That's who you got leaving this place. You said y'all were just getting to things from 6 months ago, can't handle a lot of new stuff. You accuse people of doing things, but do the same thing yourself. Phony. I'm not going to use hypocrite. That's another good word for it. New things got done in the past 2 months or so, but only took around 45 days. Raises. That didn't take that long. That wasn't from 6 months ago. Everybody in the county got raises. First reading of Hartwell overlay. That came after Mr. Bauer spoke about doing something for Saluda. So that's new. Redoing traffic study guidelines or whatever you're doing for your little thing. That's new. Form a committee for the public commission review or whatever it was. That's new. Why is there no member at large on the council? Why are you in charge of appointing new members to the PC if someone resigns? To me, you have too much power. That's what it says in this piece of paper here I got, that you get to appoint new members of the PC if people quit or resign. The people need to have the power, not one person, especially when it comes to people outside of Joe Cassie and Kiwi. Sorry, another person. There is more to Pickens County than just that area. You, sir, don't need to make decisions on your beliefs, but what the rest of Pickens County wants. There's more people in Pickens County than Highway 11 area. Time for us to stand up for what we believe. You, sir, need to go.
Thank you very much.
I call Brian Grant. Brian Grant.
I had numerous printer problems, so I'm going to have to read this off my phone. My printer, neighbor's printers, and another neighbor's printers did not work together. So I'm fighting an uphill battle. Hi, I'm coming tonight to speak about the automatic license plate readers. Some people call it the flock controversy, but there's other companies involved like Axon and Motorola. Axon makes the body cameras and tasers for police. These cameras don't reduce crime and have the promise of enabling entirely new vectors for criminal and espionage activities, all the while upending jurisprudence of the presumption of guilt and obliterating our First and Fourth Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution. Atlanta is now the most surveilled city in the world with 60,000 plus network cameras, just a few thousand by Flock, by the way. Flock is just one of these systems uploading to the Palantir grid. Atlanta has slightly higher crime than Chicago, while Chicago has 1/7 the number of cameras. Installed improperly in many locations, roadside cameras sidestep normal state DOT signage approvals. Imagine Stalin, Mao, or Hitler with access to these never-sleeping AI-empowered devices-driven surveillance architecture and data sharing network where data storage, safety, and retention are not enforceable. Flock's own marketing material claims they accurately identify 93 out of 100 license plates, 7% error. So if they can scan 20 billion plates a month per their own marketing page, that's 1.4 billion errors a month. These errors can end a driver's life if the enforcement stop goes badly. Never mind the lawsuits. The ALP permanently stores and then resold to whomever a third-party vendor wishes. These camera devices integrate local bike paths, playgrounds, private parking lots, public roadways into a centralized, nationwide, even worldwide mass tracking database to literally speculate whether a crime has been or could be committed, all imposed on millions of targets of interest simultaneously in data center scaled systems. So let's go down. I'm running out of time here. So I call it Netflix for stalkers. Consider as of fall 2025, many of the cameras were not password protected. These were not just on roadways, but on Brookhaven, Georgia's bicycle path, and others pointing at kids on Atlanta playgrounds. I'm here and there. So the footage uses ammunition will automatically follow persons in the frame to log them. We just handed the world the tools to execute innumerable illegal cyber attack vectors to compromise our federal employees, public officials, or anyone that are targets of interest. Imagine Norfolk, Virginia's naval yards with these. They have 3,000 cameras there. And how many people have classified clearance? So we're way out in front of it here. I want to show you a photograph, how well we're doing, which is pretty good. You see this big dark spot in the middle of this map? That's Pickens County. Dark, no cameras. Here's Atlanta. That's Atlanta. This is Atlanta.
Thank you very much. Your time.
Thank you.
I call Hannah Whitehead.
I apologize, I gotta talk really fast. I'm here to also talk about the flock cameras or automated license plate readers installed throughout Pickens County. Despite massive pushback from his constituents, Sheriff Blankenship has made it clear during his July 19th Facebook message that these devices will remain in use in our county. Let's take a look at this tech and its impacts in South Carolina. Stephen Melvin of Rock Hill in 2024 flock read his tag number incorrectly to that of a stolen vehicle. A deputy approached with his gun drawn and had Stephen kneel with his hands over his head for 5 minutes before the deputy verified the car was not stolen. Lanisha Hemingway of North Myrtle Beach in 2024, the 18-year-old was detained at gunpoint for the same thing. Flock alerted her vehicle as stolen when it read her tag number incorrectly. She filed a federal civil rights lawsuit and the city settled for $250,000. The Bryan sisters in Greenville in 2022, Flock read their rental car as stolen even though it was reported as recovered. The Flock database failed to update the status quickly enough and officers drew their guns, handcuffed them, and placed them in a squad car. Then we have the rampant misuse by local agencies. June 2026, 2 Greer police officers were fired. July 2026, 2 Greenville police officers were fired. And Richland County Sheriff's Department, July 2026, 1 deputy was fired and charged after using Flock for personal reasons. This brings me to Flock Nova. Flock Nova uses OSINT or open source intelligence to aggregate all of your publicly available information into one searchable database. This can include all of the location data from your devices, internet search history, fitness app activity, credit card numbers, email addresses, IP addresses, social security numbers, etc. Flock Nova's tagline was, "Search once, see everything." All of this is searchable without a warrant, which is a clear Fourth Amendment violation. Probable cause is no longer required for any officer to search these things. Pickens County Sheriff's Office bought a subscription of Flock Nova in August of 2025 obtained by FOIA documents at a cost of $7,000 per year. This doesn't include any other costs related to Flock, and this was all implemented without public debate or comment from taxpayers. As in the Declaration of Independence, it is stated, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Barring the removal of all funding for Flock, which I understand isn't realistic, what I'm asking of the council is enforcing the Sheriff's Department to create a public transparency portal. This portal is something that any department can turn on within their Flock system for public viewing. This could include camera counts, retention policies, search reason or offense type, date, time of search, etc., which can be redacted. There are roughly 6,400 agencies that use Flock and about 900 of these that have the transparency portal. Then condition funding in the future to the Sheriff's Office adoption of the transparency measure. Also require the Sheriff's Office to disclose all costs related to Flock cameras and software, including Nova, funding sources, and multi-year contract details. Formally oppose or condition funding against broad, unrestricted sharing of Flock data outside legitimate investigative needs and to require disclosure of any agreements that allow other agencies or companies access. You can also talk to your county attorney about whether this creates liability for the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
I call Debbie Hudson.
Good evening, council members. My name is Deborah Hudson, and I've lived in Pickens for 28 years. I want to preface my talk by saying my hope is not in government, but in the one true living God who sent his only begotten Son, Jesus, to die on a cross for our wrongdoings, so that we could be reconciled with God, the creator of all things for eternity. Once you have that settled in your heart and mind, there is a freedom that no man on earth can take away. That being said, I believe it is still our duty as American citizens to guard the freedoms we have inherited due to the sacrifice and death of so many that have come before us. This is our watch, and many citizens believe we are now witnessing dangerous government overreach by allowing law enforcement to set up warrantless mass surveillance cameras. There are now over 100,000 in the U.S., with more sophisticated ones yet to come. Proponents are trying to convince us that it is for our own safety, but I don't feel peaceful thinking about the prospect of my children and grandchildren having to live under an oppressive police state like Communist China, who has over 300 million cameras monitoring their people. Just last night, some friends saw a flock camera being put up on Highway 8 around 10 p.m. in the dark by law enforcement. Wasn't our sheriff just telling us this council how tight their budget was? So where is the money coming from to rent these cameras that cost about $2,500 each per year is what I understood. The wise men who wrote our Constitution knew how quickly power corrupts people. That's why they included the Second Amendment. Even if we trust our current local law enforcement, Flock has already admitted the federal government can access it by default. We don't know who will have authority in the future. Abuses have already occurred many times, and another report just came out today of that happening in Charlotte, North Carolina. Knowing everywhere we drive will create a very detailed dossier on all of us. Why would innocent, law-abiding citizens need to have that much information gathered on us as we go about our daily lives? It's wrong. Even Google knows that. It states, quote, "A constitutional republic should generally not have a mass surveillance, as it conflicts directly with foundational protections for individual privacy and civil liberties." My questions to this council is, are you willing to do everything in your power to preserve our constitutional freedoms and stop the use of mass surveillance cameras in Pickens? I hope so. There are conflicts not only with the Fourth Amendment, prohibiting unreasonable searches and seizures, but also with our First Amendment. Again, Google states, quote, "Pervasive monitoring creates a chilling effect that discourages free speech, assembly, and political association. Large databases containing private citizen information invite discrimination, targeting of minorities, and political coercion. Please refuse to accept any state or federal grants with strings attached that help to build infrastructure around us, like cameras and data centers, that could easily be used in the future to restrict our freedom of movement and create an oppressive police state." Thank you.
I call Matthew Lusk.
Hi, Matthew Lusk. I got an outside voice, and I'm going to use it because I know some people in the back are having trouble hearing. And I'm here speaking at county council, but I'm really not speaking to county council because I've learned there's not much point in that, and it's pretty hard to do. What I'm here to say is that I believe the sheriff of Pickens County is violating my Fourth Amendment protection against illegal search and seizure by the camera that is put up on Fish Trap and Saluda Dam Road that's recording the daily patterns of my daughter's life and putting them out there on the internet for, hey, you guys know how many authorized Flock users there are? I don't, but that's who has access to the patterns of the daily, like everything in my daughter's life.
Matthew, speak to us.
What's that? What's that?
Speak to us.
Speak to you. Okay, these cameras are recording the patterns of my daughter's life and selling them to any authorized Flock user. Not just this sheriff. This sheriff is probably a swell fella. I don't know. But I don't know what the next one down the road is going to be like. But I sure do know what a few sheriffs back were like. And I know what they would have done with the Flock camera. And that's a part of this conversation that needs to be had in public. All right? There's people in this county that have trust issues with the police. And it's because the police department has been weaponized by local politicians in the past in Pickens County. And race has been relevant to that. Okay? And race is relevant to why these cameras are going up again. I want people to think about that. I love my grandfather. He's one of my idols. But he believed some things that were wrong, that he was confused about. And I probably believe some things that are wrong that I'm confused about. All right? But my grandfather was an influential man in this county. And he would have used these cameras to do what he thought was best for his family. And I don't think what he thought was best for his family is what's best for this county. People need to consider that. There's an app called DFlock where you can find out where these things are. There's an app called Reflock where you can find out how to get around it. But I'd like the sheriff to take them down right now because the public opinion is not on his side and the Constitution is not on his side. That's all I have to say. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
I call Richard Presley.
You do have time. Hello, council. My name is Richard Presley. I live on K Drive. I'm here to briefly speak on a couple of subjects, one being the overlay and the other planning commission. I agree with each one of you that our water resources need better and tighter laws to protect our county. It needs to be more so, though, than just Kiwi and Jocassee, in my opinion. Duke Energy, I think, manages pretty much that property on Kiwi and Jocassee. They are federally licensed for Kiwi Toxaway. They have 800 employees. I'm unable to find out how many of those are dedicated to the land and the water resources, but I imagine you all have that. So you get assistance from Duke Energy to protect those areas that we don't have other protections from other outside resources other than you council and our administration to protect our waters elsewhere in the state. I live on K Drive, Pickens County. I'd say we are an eclectic neighborhood with homes and private homes, developments, entertainment venues, including the Speedway, house trailers and businesses. We have Hamilton Creek, we have Georges Creek, we have the Saluda River Basin. All these need the same drinking water protections that you're trying to provide to two entities in the northwest corner of our county. I applaud you for it. I think you agree with me. We need better protections, or you wouldn't even be going to protect these two water resources at all. I would like to also speak on the Planning Commission. All of you know I've had a history beginning with the Bluffs at K in 2022. People think I'm upset with that development because it's there. I'm upset because the Planning Commission approved the development without a legal quorum. And y'all let an uncontested lawsuit or whatever for 30-day time limit to contest that development. Y'all let it go. It was uncontested, so that makes it legal for our county administration. I'm saying that because the Planning Commission still, as far as I know, once they sign off on a development, they have 30 days. We have 30 days if we feel we're harmed to go to a judge, get a lawyer, and go to a judge and contest it. So I'm just saying all the traffic studies need to be up front so they have opportunities to look at all the details. Thank you, sir.
I call Lisa Moore.
Good evening. I'm a multi-county resident. Anyway, school's about to start soon. It's about to start back, so we're gonna have all the congestion back on Highway 8, Brown Drive, Sheriff Mill Road. The sounds of sirens daily in this area is congested. Pickens County school buses are not allowed to cross a small newer bridge on Popefield Road, yet Sheriff Mill Road Bridge, which was built in 1950, is not an issue. I don't understand that. The Pickens County school buses have to back and turn around on Lockwood Avenue or take the newly repaved Pine Forest Drive route in order to dodge unsafe or flood-prone bridge. I think that the concern of buses and bridges should filter on down roughly 2 miles south to the Sheriff Mill Road Bridge, where development is a consistent issue every day. Okay, on July 14th, Many residents from Highway 8, Sheriff Mill Road, Brown Drive, and several Anderson County residents had to go in front of the Anderson County Council and once again fight Meritage Homes from demolishing our community like they've done on Terry Acres. When the first Pickens County resident got up to speak, Councilmember Mr. Burns immediately asked the other members if they had to listen to the Pickens County residents. That had to be the dumbest question of the night, because considering Meritage could only gain access from a Pickens County road off of Brown Drive, the majority of speakers that evening lived off Brown Drive and were Pickens County residents who would have been directly affected tremendously from this devastation of gaining access off of Brown Drive. Okay, they had a lot to say. So I'm just asking for a little respect and help for my neck of the woods. We have enough traffic congestion. We got small country roads and bridges that don't need added issues due to shady developers. We don't want higher crime rate. There's a lot of older citizens with safe, established homes on acreage, and they want to remain at peace in Pickens County, where they're proud to claim as their home, Pickens County residents. But let's keep it that way, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, this concludes the public forum.
Great, thank you very much. Next item is number 3, approval of the minutes. I'm going to make a motion to approve minutes of July 6th and July 20th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Next up is item number 4. It's the administration report. Mr. Roper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're dealing with some technical issues, so I apologize if this goes in and out. But I really appreciate members of council having the opportunity to present on some of the issues that county staff is facing. The first one comes about because of the untimely passing of our U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham. As many of you know, Lindsey Graham, Pickens County native, buried back in the central community. But because of his passing, we have to hold an election, and probably a primary election, and probably a runoff that no one anticipated. And so Dr. Sams, the elections director, has come to me and to Mr. Garino and said that she believes, and she's estimated, the total cost of providing that special primary election on August 11th, as well as the potential runoff, which we're almost certainly going to have because of the number of candidates, that the grand total on that will be about $200,000 that it will cost the county to run that election. Because of that, obviously we're going to run the election. That's not contingent on you all voting tonight. But when the time comes in the coming months when we talk about the budget amendment, I just wanted to have alerted you to this issue so that you would recognize it on the budget amendment. We have the money. We have the money in our savings account. We'll be able to provide for the elections, but you'll see that budget adjustment at the appropriate time. We're thankful for Dr. Sams and her staff. Just as a side note, many of them scheduled vacation in August because that was the one time of the year they did not have an election. And so now they're going to have to adapt and run this election here at that time. The other thing you'll recall, back at third reading the budget, we talked about compensation for county employees, and you all were generous enough to pass a 6% pay raise for most all county employees, excluding me and yourselves, and some of the state mandated salaries. And so you provided that, but as a part of that recommendation I made to you is that we go ahead and enter into a salary study, because we wanted to see where we are in the market as a whole. We also wanted to see if there were a possibility for us to do things such as incentivizing training, so that when someone reaches a certification in their field, it incentivizes them with a pay raise as well. So we have evergreen solutions in that process. I wanted to update you that they've already begun in kicking off this project. They've come up with a plan. They've gathered the data from our colleagues, our peer groups, and they're beginning to look at when their timelines might be to actually produce a document for us. But I wanted to let you know that we take that seriously, that we're going to work hard on that. Our goal is to bring you back a recommendation this fall, early in the fall, where we will look at not just pay, but also the way that we train and incentivize our employees and the way that our pay system is structured overall. So we're very excited about this, and we appreciate council's support in allocating the funding for this, and also getting us what I see as a head start on it with the very healthy pay raise that you all established for our essential and other county employees. And then many of you were present at our grand opening, our ribbon cutting, which I thought it was a very inventive way that our emergency services folks came up with doing a ribbon cutting for our Pickens Emergency Response Center, which is to use the handheld jaws of life to actually do the cutting. I got to operate that. Mr. Bowers got to operate. Several county employees got to operate that. And so it was a good way to signify that this building is going to be for real emergency response. I'm reporting to you all today that we are using it in ways anticipated, and we're already seeing other benefits. And I want to give you a couple of examples of that. One is we've moved EMS totally in, EMS supplies totally in. Now, what that meant is also in the last couple of weeks, we've had our 2 newest ambulances delivered. And instead of us setting those up, moving all the medication, all the equipment in the middle of an old parking lot, we're able to pull them into the bay in a climate-controlled environment. We're able to get them set up and ready, and Department of Health will be here tomorrow to inspect those 2 ambulances. Pending their passing that inspection, they will be moved to the Clemson Central area this coming Friday, and will go into service, relieving us of 2 ambulances that we moved beyond their useful life. Right there is a way that Emergency Response Center has helped us be more efficient, more secure, and a better service for our EMS. Their training facility, they're already having training in that building. They've had a couple of different training sessions that I've seen. We also are dispatching for our municipal partners, Pickens City, Liberty City, Town of Central. As we speak, we're dispatching for those folks. We're going to continue to build our abilities, our skill set, demonstrate our reliability, and we're going to invite others to join us in that facility at the appropriate time. And then we've also been able to move many of our E911 technical folks and our emergency services folks over, which has had another benefit. As they've moved out of this building into that building, we've been able to bring in our code enforcement officer and our environmental enforcement officers into this building so that we have certified law enforcement in this building every day, which is a huge step forward for the security of our workers. So we'll continue to find ways to use this. I know our Emergency Services Board has already met once in it at least. You'll see other county departments and other community partners meeting in this building, using this building all of the time. So we're just very excited about it. Huge step forward for Pickens County, and I am delighted to have been a part of it. Thank you all. Members of council, that concludes my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Any questions from Mr. Roper? Mr. Roper, I got one question.
Yes, sir.
About 3 or 4 years ago, the Pickens Library got a new roof. And the Beasley Library is now about 20 years old.
Yes, sir.
Built in 2007, 2006, 2006. It needs a new roof. And I think Central Branch as well as the Liberty Branch does too. Can you tell us when those roofs are going to be replaced and what it's going to cost?
Right. The bids are out on those roofs. I don't know that we've received the bids back. I'll check with Mr. Greeno and email you that information. I believe they have, but I don't have that information in front of me tonight.
So it'll be done this year probably?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
A question. As far as that special election goes, that $200,000, is there any reimbursements from the parties or from the state, or is that just money that has to come out of our
Dr. Sams indicated that there's a potential for reimbursement, but we needed to be prepared for the worst case in that.
So that's $200,000 that could go towards absolutely anything else, but we are obligated to make sure that election runs.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lang?
With the Easley Library also, I know that there was work needed to be done on the HVAC there. What's the status? Is that completed, and what's the status?
Yes, sir. The HVAC system there has been, Mr. Lawsh, you'll have to help me what they call it, certified. Commission. It's been commissioned. That project's been completed, and we're now looking at the remaining funds to see what remodels we could do up there on that second floor.
After those roofs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item up is number 5. It's committee reports. Councilor Wallace, you had your last Roads and Bridges committee meeting, I think, last week. What do you got?
Yeah, the 16th, and forgive me, I walked right out and left my report at the house, but I will keep it as well as I can. As you said, we met on July the 16th. That is
I was there.
Councilman Bowers was the only one that could not make it. We had requested an updated paving project report from Rodney and staff to see what it would look like if we reduced the percentage score of the roads and maybe looked at not paving as many high-scoring roads and come down a few percentage points to maybe look at some moderate roads and hopefully pick up some really bad roads. We were presented with that, and we briefly talked about capital equipment purchases, and we're trying to work out some details with that. That's about it in a nutshell. I'm sure you have something to add.
Yeah, actually, what came out of that committee was a recommendation to the council to pass a policy that would direct that department to do their best with a weighted average of a pavement conditions index of 50 over time. Right now, they're paving roads that are 63, and we'd like to lower that a little bit. So we made a motion to do that. So I'm going to make a motion to adopt a policy that Roads and Bridges Department, when they create their 5-year plan for the roads that they're going to pave, that weighted average is 50. That's my motion. I hear a second.
Second that discussion.
Okay, let me explain that, because this is one of my things. Roads in the county are studied. Between 0 and 100, they're rated. 100 is a brand new road. 0 is like a dirt road. It's just missing. Okay? So we spent $80,000 to do a study of all the roads a few years ago. And one of the things I noticed was that we were paving roads, and the county roads we're talking, not state roads. State roads are in terrible shape. They're the ones with the white lines on the edge. That's a state road. Now, county roads are in much better shape. What I was noticing, I went out and took videos of our paving list, that many of these roads did not need to be paved in my eyes. And when I looked at the list, many of them were 75%. Meaning they had 75% of their life left, and they were being repaved. And there were plenty of roads on the list that had 30% of their life that were cracked, that had patches in them. They weren't being repaved. He's agreeing with me that roads get paved that don't need to be repaved. So what I did is I went to we were in the committee. I said, could you bring us the average of their list is a 63 that they're paving. Now there's plenty of 30s and 40 roads that are just not on that list. So I said, could you bring us a sample list for the next 5 years? We're going to give them discretion which roads to pick, because we're not in the road picking business, where the weighted average is 50. And they did that. And what it did was it dropped the weighted average to 50. And what it did is it removed, I think, 10 roads that had more than 70% of their life left, and replaced them with roads that had 30 to 40%. It wasn't what I would have done, which is start at the bottom, the worst roads, and pave those first, but it was a compromise between that committee and what the Roads and Bridges wanted to do. So the 50% is kind of right in the middle, and you'll see more roads that will be paved with 30% of their life or 40% of their life left. And you won't see roads being paved that have 70% of their life left. One was 88%. I drove the road. I took a video of it. I said, why are we scheduled to pave this road? So that's why that motion was made, and I made it, and that's my reasoning on it.
Mr. Chairman, just for sake of discussion, if I may, because I want to make sure I understand the science, and this may be a question for Mr. Rodney over there. I don't understand how we have a road that may be a 73 that has 80% of its life left, and a road that's 30 that only has 20% of its life left. That math doesn't math. It comes from the civil engineer that way. So how does that occur?
It doesn't. I mean, if a road is
that was the argument you just made.
No. I said if a road is 73%, it's 0 to 100. It means it has 73% of its life left. If it's 73, it doesn't have 50%. I mean, that's what that number represents. The percentage.
I thought 100 was a dirt road.
No. A 0 is a dirt road. 100's a new road.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
He's going to explain it.
Okay.
Good evening. One thing I want to correct first off is those scores those have nothing to do with the percentage of life. So if you're saying that's 70 and it has 70% of his life left, that is incorrect. Those numbers are called the PCI, which is the Pavement Condition Index. It's a score that rates the surface and structural condition of roads. It's based on the distress type, the severity, and the length of the road. And basically, the engineers, they use a formula with all of this involved and also the amount of traffic on it to come up with the paving list. But the PCI, that number, that is what that is for. We did a bigger range of roads and not just focusing on roads that are 50 or less, is because we're trying to preserve roads. Those roads that are like in the 70s, we want them to last longer. And so what we end up doing is doing a minor repaving. Like we may go in there, do some patching, and then maybe a 1 or 2 inch lift of asphalt, which is a lot cheaper than doing complete reconstruction. These roads that are in the 30s and 40s, we have to do complete reconstruction. So the math is we could either spend about $100,000 to $200,000 right now to preserve the road and make it last longer, or we can wait and spend $500,000 to $750,000 on the road to pave it. But that was the math behind us paving, not just roads in the 50s, not just roads in the 30s, but roads that are in the 70s. Those roads don't get the same treatment, even though they're on the paving list. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Thank you for clarifying.
I have a question. Does that pavement condition index take into account roads that are used by more people than others?
Yes, so basically the pavement condition index does not. But when they make the paving list, that takes that into consideration. What I noticed when they reconfigured the list to make the roads average weighted of 50, a lot of the roads on that list are roads that aren't heavily traveled. A lot of those are like subdivision roads, things like that. They're not necessarily dead-end roads, but they're roads that aren't heavily traveled. Whereas there's a lot of roads that are in the 70s that are heavily traveled, and if we leave those ignored, they're gonna get in worse condition and cause a lot more money. Yeah. So it wasn't that we're gonna ignore those lower roads. We had a plan to address those roads also.
The revised list that you provided us, was that made by the engineers or was that you guys?
No, sir, that's the engineers. When we started this whole process and paying that a third-party engineer, one of our own call engineers, to do this road study and develop the paving list, we wanted to make sure that basically nobody here at the county can have any opinion on it, and so no one can say, oh, well, such and such lives on that road, so that's why they're paving it. We had an outside company do the whole thing.
That's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, the only thing we do, once they present us with the list, there are some roads that were on there that were actually not a county road, and so we corrected that. And then, excuse me, then there are some roads that were on the list that we actually said, you know what, that road isn't heavily traveled. This road over here gets more traffic, so let's put that one on there. That's the only influence we have on the list in my department.
I'm trying to understand. So we have hired an outside team as well as worked with our engineers and civil engineers, and you developed a paving plan.
That's right.
That prioritizes the most commonly used roads and spending as little money as possible to get the most out of tax money investment.
That's correct.
That's where you came from. So why are we changing that?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, because there's plenty of roads that people live on and pay taxes and pay for this system, whose roads we are not paving, that have cracks and potholes. And they go out to Odell Drive and look at it and don't see any potholes in that road. And we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars paving that road. The people who are paying for this are wondering what the heck we're doing. Now, they're insulated from that. They don't work from the public. You and I do. And when people are sending me pictures of roads that are being paved, and I'm no expert, but these are not just, these are clearly not very old roads. They're wondering what's going on. And not all these low roads, these 30s or 40s are low volume roads. I've driven a lot of them, you know, and I can tell you they're not just all in subdivisions or dead ends. They're actually roads that are just being ignored. And I think the goal is probably maybe to pave more miles, which you would if you're paving a bunch of roads that don't need to be paved because they don't need a lot. But I think we need a higher percentage of roads that are obviously in worse condition. And honestly, they're being ignored for roads that are in far better condition that my eye could see.
Right, so I've got two frustrations here. One is you were part of the group that voted to eliminate a payment plan we had for roads. Y'all cut in half the amount of money we're giving roads and
Sure,
bridges
because it violated
to
the
work
state
with.
law.
It did not.
Sure.
So we got rid of the money that we gave this team. This team then came up with a plan. They are the engineers, we are not. And this committee got together to tell the engineers that they're not doing their job right, and because you've driven on them, choose those roads.
That's not 100% accurate. The engineers provided the list that we have now. We didn't tell them they weren't doing their job.
Well, when y'all suggested a change of
We
the,
asked, what would it look like if we changed those numbers?
y'all came up with that number, right, the average?
50.
The 50, that was y'all's number?
Sure.
Okay, I understand, thank you.
And Councilman Seda, if you don't mind, I would like to mention one thing. We're not insulated from it. My office is at the Roads and Bridges office. I work very closely with them. We get calls all the time, both good and bad. We get calls about people that do complain about their roads not being paved. And our office manager, they forward them to my number, and then I explain the process to them. A lot of times they're still not happy, but they understand it. And then also we get a lot of calls about people that are complimenting us and telling us how well we do on our roads. They're telling us that, oh, I wish you would pave the state roads.
Yeah.
So we get both. But like I said, whenever they're forwarded to me and they're not happy, I explain the process to them and they get it. And I'll be happy to explain it to anyone. I've never had that issue.
Well, the issue is, I personally believe we should start the roads in the worst condition. That's my opinion. You believe what you believe, and this is a compromise. It's halfway.
And see,
So
and it's not-
basically what it does is it's eliminating about 10 roads on average that you would pave in the 70s versus adding maybe 10 roads that are in the 30s. That's all it's doing. It's not starting at the bottom of the list. And of course it needs to be volume related. It always is volume related. It has to be. But I just think that the people that are paying for this, those are the complaints I'm getting. And I think the policy should reflect that. I'm not saying it should be completely, let's start at the bottom of the list. That's what I heard yesterday. But it's a compromise. I thought it was a compromise, honestly.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say for clarity, and to make me feel better about saying it. You mentioned the taxpayers, and myself and Mrs. Wimple were in a very unique situation, and we have taxpayers that live in our districts that contribute heavily, I would say, to those funds. And the amount of money we see returning back to our district is nil to slightly nil for me. I believe I have a couple of miles of roads. And you have zero. So saying that, I have to be a good steward of these county funds. I believe that's my job. And I believe that an ounce of prevention is more valuable than a pound of a cure. The Wix oil filter commercials of old, those kinds of things. And I think there's something to be said to doing the preventative maintenance on the front side. And I understand it looks like you're paving more and this, that, and the other until 2 to 3 years from now, 4 years from now, that road that we could have fixed for $100,000 today, now we're paying $750,000, and that is not being a good steward. I don't care who you are, that math don't matter. And that's just the way I feel about it personally.
Rodney,
Yes, sir.
if we adopted this, within a year's time, would you be able to determine, was this a good move or a bad move, or?
Yes, sir, we could, because in a year's time, basically, we'll look at the other roads that were not necessarily neglected, but the roads that weren't paved, what their conditions are. And to be honest with you, it'll probably be more of like in 2 or 3 years' time, because depending on the traffic that the road gets, a year may not determine that. If it's a road that's not heavily traveled, then within a year, it's still gonna be fine. So it just kind of depends on the road. But we can definitely take our best wing at it.
That's similar to when I asked you the question of how long does it take a good road to go bad.
Right.
There's really no answer
It depends on the traffic.
Variable.
If it has a lot of traffic, a good road can go fast, can go bad very fast. And then, like I said, a lot of times it's a lot more than just the physical, just looking at the road as you're driving on the road. It's actually thinking about the structure. Like I said, that's what goes into that PCI number, the structure of the road and everything. What's up under, what's causing those cracks. Even if it is a couple of cracks, what is causing that? And it's a lot of different factors that go into it. It's a math that these engineers have used. It's not just picking some out of the sky.
They're not just driving around looking at roads, they have degrees and stuff, right?
Right, that's that, and yeah, sorry.
Okay, any other questions? Any other discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a
Thanks.
motion that we don't adopt this from the committee and that we stick to our pavement plan as we originally had from our engineers.
I second that.
Any discussion on that? I mean, substitute motion is basically just gonna, okay, we'll just, if it fails, we'll just get right back to where we were. Okay, those in favor of this, your motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Right back to where we were. I'm gonna make the motion again, which is to adopt a policy of 50% on the 5-year plan. Do I hear a second?
Second that for one more piece of discussion.
Okay.
While I understand what they're saying and what Mr. Robinson's saying, I do think there is room for improvement, and I realize we have engineers that determine these things, and the engineers were involved in this revised list we have. That's why I asked the question, if we choose to adopt this, this is true of anything. Down the road, we could say, okay, this wasn't a good move. We can always reverse this. That's my point. It's not that I'm just wanting to steamroll through it.
Any other discussion?
I'll add, it is a privilege on council to get to vote for something that's gonna cost a future council a lot more money. So we have to always be careful that we are tasked with being good stewards of the money that we spend and looking forward to how much it's gonna cost for a parameter. And if we start saying every taxpayer deserves something, which of course we all deserve something for our taxes, but as Mr. Bauer says, my district is entirely taxpayers who receive zero money for county roads. We have 0 roads in the city of Clemson, and we have the largest contribution to the tax base in this county. So the way that tax dollars work is you average them out to where they are most efficiently used to serve the most number of people. And that is what this paving plan did, and I don't understand why it's even under discussion.
I mean, the people in Clemson never drive on county roads.
That's not what I said. You talked about people who drive over roads that aren't good, and I'm saying we don't get any of that money. We get 0 money for county roads.
And Councilman,
You get 0 money for the police too. I mean, that's the way the government's structured.
Right, so that's, we collectively use the money to collectively help the most.
It's not a
people.
balance of payment system. That's not the way government works. You know what a balance of payment means? What you put in, you get out. That's a balance of payment system. That's not government. There's counties down in the state that pay tons of money for education into the state. They don't get nearly as much back. It's not equal.
I understand.
That's the way government's set up. It's not a balanced payment system.
You started this
And you're
conversation
demanding,
saying taxpayers aren't having their roads paved.
but you're arguing for a balanced payment system, which
No,
is
I'm
not
not.
government.
No, I'm saying that that's what you said, and that's confusing to me.
Okay, it's balanced. Okay, all right. Okay, those. Okay.
One question, and I had sought this answer earlier on, but never actually retrieved it. And Mr. Robinson, this may be directed for you, but has there ever been a calculation of cost around the savings if we stayed on the present course that the county is doing now, as opposed to the change that you're making? Has there any numbers been revealed on that?
So basically, road that has to be completely reconstructed, this is the cost per mile, and this is just the estimate. Cost per mile can be from anywhere from $400,000 to $690,000, whereas a road that we just would go in and what's called a crack seal and just kind of preserve it, you're looking at about $110,000 to $137,000.
All right. Concerning the mileage that we're looking at, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what would that comparison look like for these two plans?
What we've been doing the past 3 or 4 years, I would say we've been paving about 15 to 25 miles of road.
Does that change if we go to the 50th percentile? How many miles you gonna get?
We would definitely pave a lot less roads, because if we're doing strictly in the 50s, we're gonna be looking at most, not all, but mostly reconstruction for roads, which is a higher cost.
And that 50 is just an average, right?
Yes, it's an average, but because of the number of roads that are like in the 30s and 40s, it cuts out a lot of those higher roads that we can preserve. We basically won't really be doing any preservation work. It'll be mostly not full reconstruction, but a lot of patch and pave.
So you 5 miles, 10 miles, 4 miles?
I would say it probably cut out at the very least 5 miles or so. And then considering that most of our roads are only about a mile, a lot of them a lot less, that means a lot. And then also another thing that you have to consider, that's kind of to you and Councilor Linville's point, is you don't have any roads in your district that are county in the cities, but they travel on county roads, as Councilman Sater pointed out. And so that's why we're trying to hit a lot of those roads that most of the citizens in the county use.
Okay, any other questions from the report?
Yeah, I'd like to look at, I don't know if we could do it or how we can do it, but looking at the damage to people's vehicles that drive the roads that are worse off. I know I just happened to hit a pothole the other day in a road, and I got to get a front end alignment on my car. You know, we've got to take into account some of that too, because I mean, that's money out of these people's, out of my pocket. I mean, it's going to cost me $150 or whatever, you know, they're going to charge me to do a front alignment. So there's other costs involved in roads that aren't maintained well than just the paving costs. And I think we need to keep that in mind also, because that's my money. I'm spending my own money. I'm not spending the county's money, which is still my money. It's their money, right? And I get what you're saying. I do, but there's got to be some consideration for those roads that are worse and the damage that they can cause to the citizens' vehicles, like mine, right? And just as an example, we've got to take a look at that too. We have to put some kind of consideration on that. I don't know how to put a dollar figure on it, but it's something that we need to consider that also.
Any other comments or questions on that?
On that damage, how many calls do you get on average for damaged vehicles due to our county road?
To be honest with you, not a whole lot. We do get calls a lot about potholes, and that actually comes out of a different pot of money. That is regular maintenance. That does not come out of this money that we pay roads with. And typically, whenever you call Road and Bridge Department about a pothole, it's patched within a day, maybe 2. They usually patch it pretty quickly. And like I said, that's a completely separate pot of money. That comes out of the general budget that is approved every single year.
Okay, any other comments on that? Anyone call for a question? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. That passes 4-2. Thank you very much. Next item up is council correspondence. On Monday, August 17th, the council is going to meet to discuss up to 4 items. We're going to get the latest draft on the solar farms ordinance. That's a goal of Councilor Linville. So she's going to be working with staff on that. I think you're working with staff on that now. Hopefully, we can get some final changes to that draft and on the 17th, and maybe look at a 3rd reading sometime in September. We hope to get another draft on the hotel ordinance. That's a goal of Councilor Lawless. He's working on that with staff and the planning department. Okay, we hope to get the latest draft on the Lake Kiwi and Jocassee overlay. That's a goal of Councilor Lawless and myself. We're working with staff on that. We're also continuing to get input on that. And we're going to focus on the 17th, we're going to focus on the residential aspect of that overlay. We just touched on it, but we're going to dive deeper into that. We will also get a look at on the 17th on the new developmental area map with District 4 changes that Councilor Lang has actually requested. He's been working on that. So the Ad Hoc Roads and Bridges Committee has sunsetted. Your work's complete. Thank you very much. The Ad Hoc DSO Committee, which is Council Linville, Holloway, and myself. We're going to get started on Monday, on August 10th. That's next week. That committee is going to elect the chairman and then dig into the noise ordinance and the events venue issues that relate to concerts and things like that. And also some of the K-Drive requests that we've gotten to change in the DSO we'll be looking at. So Richard, you want to be at that meeting for sure. Council Linville and others attended the South Carolina Association of Counties conference this past week. So give us a report on that.
Yep, the South Carolina Association of Counties has annual conference. Pickens County showed up, Councilor Bowers was there, Councilor Lang, and Councilor Holloway, as well as everybody seated over here, our division heads, our senior directors. It is a mix of elected officials and county staff who attend, and the conference is a combination of classes called the Institute of Government, followed by conference matters. Institute of Government, we had several graduates from levels. I graduated from level 2 and started my advanced classes. Councilor Bowers is working on his advanced. He's graduated a while ago. Councilor Lane graduated from level 1 and level 2 and started advanced courses. And Councilor Holloway graduated from level 1. And we have several staff who've already graduated. Some of them were in the advanced classes and others are working through it. These are classes that teach public officials how to be better at our jobs, stuff on FOIA, on property law, on that kind of thing. So those classes were great, and it's good to get training. Then during the conference, we met with state officials, and honestly, the updates were a little different this year because the state hasn't passed a budget. So the legislators were talking to us about how that's going to affect counties. It affects Pickens County. Mr. Roper had a great question for the staff there because the state is responsible for earmarks that fund a lot of projects that happen in the county, and all those earmarks are on hold until they pass a budget. So we were trying to get updates on what was going to happen about that, with that, as well as other laws that might affect counties this year. Mr. Roper also concluded his year of being president of the South Carolina Association of County Managers, Administrators, and Supervisors. So he has spent the year leading that countywide association, so they were very grateful for his service. And I know that, I'm pretty sure, Ms. Pratt, the attorneys meet as well. So it was a great collection of best practices and talking with people, and they even added, I was able to go to a luncheon with updates on the federal level about how recent changes in federal policy are going to affect counties. So it was a great chance to get together, work on those issues, and learn more about our position.
Great. Anyone else who was at the conference want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to add, it was, as Councilor Linville said, it was really great to get to meet with other counselors from different counties and see what they have going on in their counties that we can take a look at for Pickens County. I think there's a couple things that we need to take a look at that were discussed down there that we can do, we can bring up in maybe new business here in a minute. But it's really good to be able to bounce ideas off of people from different parts of the county. What I will say with the state budget, 600, and I think I think it was a state senator said there's $680 million. They don't know how they're going to spend it yet.
That's when you left.
That's when I left. And for me, personally, it's like, well, I know what you can do with it. You can give it back to we the people. So I would suggest to everyone to call your state representatives and talk about that $680 million and what they're going to do with it, and give your suggestion to them. Because if you don't, they'll come up with something, and it won't be you, right? That's all I got.
Okay, great. Okay, any other?
Mr. Chairman, technically, this is a council correspondence. You asked me a question. You had asked earlier about the roofs on the library. I do have that information. Mr. Garino is watching the live feed, and he reminded me. As bids are back, we're still waiting on the performance bonds that would allow us to finalize the contracts. But the low bid for those roofs is $182,000. We hope that we'll be up for all of them, and we hope we'll be able to resolve that in September.
And that estimate was 300,000.
That's right.
So it's good. You're saving
Can
some
I-
money.
I have something to add to correspondence.
Sure.
I know this is unusual, but I got a call a couple hours ago. I think many of y'all know that the Senior League, Little League World Series takes place in Easley. It's going on right now. It is incredible. Teams come from all over the country, as well as other countries in Easley. It's a great combination project with the county. A lot of these teams stay in Clemson hotels. They eat out and shop in Pickens County, and we collect tax money from them, and then we invest tax money back into this Little League. It's a great event. Because of rain delays, that they've had several, the Little League World Series is lasting several more days than it was originally supposed to. So there are teams here that had not budgeted to be here that long. And many of them have run out of money to eat. Word got back that one team had just taken loaves of bread back to their hotel room to eat last night. Some of them are out of funding. So there is ways that we can help if you want to support these teams that have traveled to Easley. There's a website called Give Butter, butter like the dairy product, Give Butter, / Senior Little League World Series. You can make a donation if you want to help them out. Also, you can drop food, snacks, Gatorade off at the Clemson Chamber of Commerce, which is right there next to the Amtrak station in Clemson. Y'all could spread the word. This is a great event that Pickens County is incredibly proud to have, and we hate to see any teams not able to be comfortable here. So,
Can you repeat that? Give Butter?
GiveButter.com / Senior Little League World Series.
Senior spelled out or SR?
SENIOR, spelled out. All those words, all one word. Senior Little League World Series. Thank y'all very much.
Okay, next item up is going to be item number 7, motions for new business. Do I hear any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we add executive session tonight, discussion with our attorney regarding council's roles in block cameras.
Okay. I'll second that. And you want to add that to the agenda? Okay, so any discussion on that?
No, I have one other thing.
Okay, those in favor, raise your right hands. Those opposed, same sign. We'll discuss that later. Okay, next up.
Yeah, I have a thing. We need to also be in discussion for data centers. What we're going to do in Pickens County. I don't know if we need to do an ad hoc committee to do a lot of research on that and make a recommendation to council. So it's something that's coming. That train is moving down the track and it's coming our way, I believe. We need to discuss what we want here in Pickens County. So I don't know how you.
I'm with you. I oppose data centers. We have different beliefs about what the threat is, but I don't know. You can make a motion to. I don't know. You can send it to a committee or something to discuss. I mean, I know you could just make it a goal, but here's the problem I have. Okay. We just met last month, named 15 goals. Now, we got to get them done by the end of the year because Councilor Linville's going to be leaving. Hopefully going to the State House. She gets elected. He's up for re-election. Hope he makes it, but you never know. It's just that way I've been in elections. So we have to get those done by the end of the year. We're not going to get those 15 done by the end of the year. We're not. I'll try my best to schedule it. But what are we supposed to do when we get something new like this? Richard Presley's been waiting 9 months for us to work on his request. Is he going to the bottom list now?
No.
What am I supposed to do? I mean, everybody wants to add new stuff, and you already have 4 goals that or 3 goals that you set. Now we just don't have the time. I mean, unless you want to meet 3 times a month, which I can. I'm retired, no problem. But it's just, we got to focus on the 15 goals that we named 2 weeks ago, or are we going to start talking about data centers too? I mean, like I said, I oppose data centers. I don't think they would make it past the planning commission, frankly. And I don't think they would come to the upstate because of the terrain, and other counties want them. We wouldn't. So I just don't know if I want to schedule it in front of something where he's been waiting 9 months and they've been waiting 6 months, and he's got something that's
we don't need to put it in front of everything, but I think it just needs to be on our radar.
We can put it on. We can make it number 16 if you like. I mean, it's just the practicality of scheduling and trying to get things done. And these guys know that I'm constantly pushing things forward all the time. they've had enough of me. But it's like somebody said, it's a very slow-moving body. We're going at 10 miles an hour with this 6 members and staffs and department heads and 700 employees. So we can add it to the list, but.
On that subject, real quickly, can I ask Ms. Fowler, has staff discussed data centers at all so far?
We have very briefly, mostly watching what the state is doing.
Mr. Chairman, can I?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
One more thing real quick. What are y'all at with this? Is this, we need to be looking at, because it is good.
But we're not close to forming an opinion on what we should do or proposal, but we agree that some standards would be crucial.
So, Mr. Chairman, would this fit in with either the solar farm work that's going on, since it is the same department? I realize it's different beast, but the same animal, or the UDSO conversation? You don't necessarily have to come out with a solution. I don't think Mr. Lang or Councilor Lang is saying we need a solution today, but it is worth the conversation. And if it's a deeper dive, then you have time for it, but there's no reason to avoid the conversation.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. We could send it to that DSO committee. Because in the past, we used to have committees. Standing committees or committees as a whole. And things were sent to committee to just die. At the end of the year, there'd be like 30 items. And maybe we'd get to 10 of them. Now, under my leadership, we don't do that. We actually, everybody gets a hearing. If it's going to just get one vote, they get a hearing, they get a meeting out. Because that's fair. I think it's fair to the minority. In the past, the minority got stuff sent to the committee. It never got looked at. So I'm trying to avoid that. But then doing that, when you hear everything, you only have so much time. We can send it to the DSO committee. I don't have a problem doing that, adding that to the list. So
I'm okay with that.
So I'll make a motion to send that to the DSO committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign, passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. Any other new business?
Nope.
Okay, so it's going to be, DSO committee is going to get data centers. Okay, next up is item number 8A. It's a resolution of Pickens County Council establishing a policy for the issuance of road encroachment permits. Mr. Roper, could you explain this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I think we had one member of public forum that actually spoke to this very issue earlier. Ms. Moore, I don't know if she's still here, but she was speaking about Brown Drive and saying that an Anderson County development was asking to build a subdivision in Anderson County, that their only way of access would be through a county road in Pickens County, Brown Drive. Now, you all have worked very hard over the last 2 or 3 years to deal with issues like development standards. How dense do we want subdivisions to be in this county? What do we want subdivisions to look like, to Mr. Presley's point? Y'all worked really hard on these and you're continuing that work. But what will happen is other jurisdictions, and developers know they can do this, they'll go outside the county or outside the county's jurisdiction and do a development much denser. And then our roads, Mr. Robinson can attest, have to bear the brunt of that. And our citizens have to bear the brunt of that traffic. So when we got on a staff level, the request from the developer for that Anderson County parcel, and we knew they needed to use Brown Drive, my staff recommended and I supported us saying no. And so we said, no, you can't, we're not going to give you an encroachment permit on a county road for a development that would not meet our standards. Now, we did that and we felt righteous. But I'm a big believer in home rule. What I just did was pass a policy. And I'm the county administrator, I don't set policy. 6 of you set policy. So what I'm doing is asking for you to endorse that policy so we can continue to take that point of view. Another example would be the Millstone subdivision off Linhart Road, which was inside the city limits, but it used a county road for a second entrance and it created a dispute with the county residents in that area. So we think it'll have real application. We recommend it to you as a staff because we know that you work so hard on these development standards. We would like to say, cities do what you deem is best. Other counties do what you deem is best, but if you're going to use our county roads, you need to build them to our standards. And that's the the point of this resolution.
Okay, Mr. Bowers, this was one of your goals. What's your thoughts on it?
I want to make a motion that we adopt this resolution. I asked for it a month ago. Thank you for putting it on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
So I'm all for it.
I'll make a second on that. Any discussion? If those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for waiting. We're now up to the public hearing of the ordinance number 684 establishing Lake Kiwi, Lake Jocassee overlay district. I'm just going to give you a quick review on this so you know. We started talking about this in February. It was a goal of Council Wallace and myself. There were 3 public meetings in March, April, and May. We had a first reading on March 16th of just Lake Kiwi. We added Lake Jocassee and another first reading on April 20th. We had a work session on May 27th where we discussed detail. We had another work session on June 15th, another work session on June 29th. We have not met about it in over a month now because we've been gathering more input. And that is the purpose of this meeting. By law, we have to put a notice in the paper 30 days before that says, we want to hear your public here, even though we've probably had 6 or 7 meetings where people spoke or potentially could have spoken. So this is the official public hearing meeting for this. We're going to likely have another meeting on the 17th, a work session, maybe finalize the ordinance then. If we can't, we'll go into September with another work session. We'll probably have a final vote in September or October, so there's still time on this. So first speaker.
Before you do that, if you'll give me just a second, I want to clarify too, and if you've emailed me or called me and I haven't gotten back to you yet, I'm working on it. I've read every one of them and listened to every voicemail, but it's just been immense, the number. See, know that there's nothing on paper and nothing is definite yet. So there's been some bad information being put out there that some things are going to be this or going to be that. At this point, this is still a work in progress. So there's nothing, we're not voting on anything like that, or we're still gathering information.
Okay. Sure. I do that too. I also received, obviously, we've all received a lot of emails about it, and one of them was that y'all don't have the most updated language to speak on tonight. And I know that is frustrating. That is just the way that this fell after second reading. So if you're looking at the June 29th agenda and meetings, that version got changed a lot. So you'd have to look at that and then watch the video and follow all the votes that were changed. The new clean copy that we will look at before third reading has not yet been developed by staff. So I know that was problematic for a lot of people, and we've already had discussions about doing better moving forward. But to Councilor Wallace's point, there is no current available version of exactly what came out of second reading on June 29th. So you have to combine that document with the video of what was voted on to know. So speak on anything you want because all of this is still changing, but there is not a final document that has been signed yet.
Your input tonight is going to be combined with the work that's still going on. So
Yeah, I'll give you an example. The first, what happens is we had 3 meetings, public meetings, vineyards up towards the reserve in that area. And then
Shady Grove and Mount
Shady
Park.
Grove, and then you had council and weighed in, staff weighed in, citizens weighed in. And what happens is we don't start with a blank page. The staff creates this bigger document. And then we go through the document and basically make changes each meeting as we move through it. We're probably about 2/3 of the way through it. The first version actually had industrial manufacturing plants up to 200,000 square feet allowed on the lake. That's how far it's come. Now that's not, now we struck that out of it, but that's where they start, you know, so there's a lot of winding that goes on. So, okay, first speaker, let's go with the first speaker.
First speaker is Karen Wright.
From the back roads and courthouse steps of small-town South Carolina to the late-night studio where the mics never sleep, this is where decisions, rumors, and real stories collide. You're tuned in to the Pot Stirrer Podcast with Jazzy Jeff. Real talk, local issues, no fluff.